Good afternoon. This is Robert Robinson in the recap office to start our new resource desk training for the FHEO staff. So I'm here with Linda Ossie, and we appreciate all of you taking the time to join us. We're very excited about the new resource desk. It's been a long time coming, and we're hoping that it's going to do a lot of things for folks, not the least of which is make it easier for you all to collaborate more seamlessly with both the PHAs and with the recap staff. And so we're excited to roll this out. For those of you who have been on the resource desk, we went live on Monday, so if you've been there the last couple of days, you certainly are familiar with the new page, and hopefully kind of like how we've set this up. Before we get into the specifics about your pages, we did want to give you a little bit of background about the new home page generally. One of the things that the recap office wanted to do in this rollout was to provide equal weighting to both components of the RAD program. Previously referred to as RAD first component and RAD second component. Now we're trying to rebrand those as RAD for PHAs and RAD for multifamily. The RAD for PHA side is where the predominant piece of your all's work is, particularly in interacting with recap. The RAD for multifamily side really deals with some of the orphan programs in multifamily, including the RED program, the RAP program, live rehab, as well as soon the 202 pracs and potentially some other multifamily programs that may roll into the RAD side. But the new site provides equal weighting to both. Previously it was very RAD for PHA centric, but now we've provided these two kind of on level playing fields. And to allow users who are going one way or the other, we've provided some additional resources without having to have a login account on the resource desk. So just want to take a couple of minutes here at the beginning to kind of tell you what that means. So we're not logged in on the resource desk at the moment. We're just a public access user. But let's say we want some information on the RAD for PHAs, and we want to figure out whether we want to get into the program or what we want to do. So we've set some spokes up, and one of the spokes is the document library. Those users out there who have spent some time in the resource desk know that the document library is where guides live, various checklists, and those sorts of things. But there are also a lot of things that the public can view, and so we created a bunch of subcategories, since there's so many documents, that then allow you to get the pieces that you're able to have access to in a more concise manner. So if I want to get started with RAD, I would expand that section, and inside of there we've got a couple of things about the benefits of RAD, how you're eligible, those sorts of things. So this is something that can be accessed again without logging in. If you want to find out kind of how RAD links with other public housing programs, you can expand that and you'll get the mixed finance desk guide. This is also the way that users get information. And so once you do log in, this list expands to include all of those reference items that you and your user type are able to access. So for example, a PHA that is in RAD today has a lot more information than just this basic information here on the public site. So that's something that we really are happy with, so that folks can do that. So if we go back to the home page, just like the document library, we've also created a little spoke for trainings, and trainings are basically webinars, really. And so there are a lot of webinars that the recap office has done, and other offices actually have done, that are populated here. In addition to webinars that you may have for each particular user group. For example, there are some FHEO specific webinars that your user type will be able to see not available for public consumption. So these are all the publicly available ones, and there are some Q&A sessions on fair housing and relocation notice, for example. So that stuff is all available to the public. One of the other things that a lot of users asked for was easier access to all of the various notices that are involved in the RAD program. So we created a little spoke for notices, and at the very top section, these are all of the notices that are relevant to the RAD program. We're in revision 3 of the RAD notice, so that notice is posted here. Since it was a change from revision 2, there's a black line version of that, so that particularly early on when the revisions happen, people like to see what's changed before they get comfortable with revision 3. When revision 4 comes out sometime at the end of this year, I'm imagining, they'll be replaced and we'll have a black line version from revision 3 to revision 4. There's also the Fair Housing, Civil Rights, and Relocation Notice. There's a lot of stuff in there that is RAD specific, as well as the supplemental notices that came out this summer after the RAD cap was lifted. Then as Linda scrolls down a little bit, you'll see that we have actually populated the table of contents of the entire RAD notice. And so if a user wants to come in and find something specific, they can easily come in and find the section, and they open that up and they can read it right here. It should be, we hope, easier to navigate through, bounce the sections that you need to see without feeling a bit overwhelmed with the entirety of the notice just kind of staring at you. Okay? So in conjunction with the notices and kind of the document library and things, we've also modified the search engine. So we've created a bunch of categories trying to allow users to more easily get to what they're actually looking for. And so we've created some overarching categories, for example, the planning section. And under the planning section, we've clicked on the Fair Housing and Civil Rights Notice. In this particular case, this is going to pull up the actual RAD notice sections that relate to fair housing and civil rights. If there were documents, those would show up. If there were some Q&As on this, they would show up here. And I can say that for specific user types, those items expand and contract a little bit. So you have more documents. Most of the Q&As are typically the same, but you do have more access to more documents. In the environmental review section here, you see these 4 items that can be referenced in documents, and then that's the specific reference to the notice. Okay. Not going to go into too much depth on the RAD for multifamily side, but just quickly clicking on the document library, you can see that they have a specific RAD for multifamily document library with sections broken out in those items that relate to their transactions specifically. Okay. So that's kind of the change on the main page and the public viewing. Again, just to reiterate, there's no need for public access login anymore. People can get the information without actually logging into the resource desk. And so the idea of logging into the resource desk is really going to be for people who are using the resource desk. So whether it's a PHA that is looking to apply in RAD, they can now apply through the resource desk, or they are in the RAD program now, they have a chat and they're accessing things, as well as all of the other users, including yourselves. So Linda, let's go ahead and log in to the resource desk. And so we're going to log in first just as an FHEO reviewer. So this is not someone who has supervisory assignment capability. This is just a more general FHEO user. And the first thing that you'll notice is that there are cards that we created for everybody. And so in this particular case, there are 3 cards that this user has. Everybody has, all of the users have this search bar across the top, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Everybody also has this notifications bar on the left. And what this is going to be is, in addition to the emails that you're already used to receiving from the resource desk, notifying you that documents have been uploaded, or in your case, maybe you've rejected an FHEO accessibility and relocation checklist, and the PHA has now uploaded a new submission to the one that you rejected. You'll get the email that you're used to getting, but you're also going to see a notification here the first time you log in after that document's uploaded, and it will give you the name of the transaction and a quick link to be able to go straight to that that item and go ahead and start your review there. So we think that that's going to provide some additional transparency to you as a user, and in case something gets lost in spam or you're just getting overwhelmed with some of these emails from the resource desk, you'll easily be able to see things that you will be able to work from. And then over on the right side, this is going to be a list of all the transactions that have been assigned to this particular reviewer. So Linda, if you could click on any one of these. So when you click on the name of the transaction, then you're going to pull up which will sort of familiar, hopefully generally familiar page, but we've added some new features here. So this is where you're going to do your reviews and your approvals. And again, using this same card concept, we've created a generic card across the top, which gives you specific information about the transaction, the PHA name, the name of the transaction, but then also, very importantly, what's the status of this particular RAD transaction. So in this case, the financing plan has not been submitted yet, and so you have a little bit of time to do your review. If that said financing plan submitted or RCC issued, you would know that if you haven't completed your review, you really need to be getting going on that. And this is going to be a way for you to quickly see kind of where things are in the RAD conversion process. You'll also be able to quickly see who the regional director is, and then this new box out to the right that says reviews complete, and we have a not complete out to the right. This is a new feature that we have added that's going to allow those regional directors and designees, once you have, as a reviewer, have completed all of your reviews and everything is quote unquote approved, the overall transaction will need to be approved by that regional director designee. And so when we log in, we're going to log in as a supervisor in a minute. You'll see that that checkbox exists, and they'll be able to check that box, which will then flow through to all of the various other pages that your colleagues in recap and asset management and closing are using to close the transaction. It's very important that everyone knows that these transactions have been approved, and so we've added this feature so that each group inside of HUD that's touching a RAD transaction will be able to sign off on the totality of the transaction. So then you're going to see that we have a series of cards. So where you're used to seeing the old grid structure, we've actually replaced that with a series of cards for each different review that you are doing. And so each card stands alone, and so you'll be able to see over on the far left-hand side, these are all of the documents that the PHA has uploaded to the resource desk for your review. And so if you've been going back and forth, you happen to have rejected one, they've resubmitted, you've gone back and forth, all of the history is going to be there. And so you can get the documents that you need to review. But then in the next column, you're going to see this is where you all upload your approval or disapproval letter, whichever one that you do. You'll also notice out to the right, as Linda scrolls across, we've added a little trash can. There was a lot of desire on your part and your team to be able to delete one of these letters if you've uploaded something incorrectly. And so now you have the ability to delete these files. Remember that if you delete the file, then the submission is going to go away and you're going to have to start all over again. So we're going to have to make sure that when you're deleting files, that the protocols that you all have been put in place still work. That being, you have to upload the letter first, then the submission rejection or submission approval out to the right can be completed, and then the regional director designee will then have to come in and certify behind you. So the three-step process hasn't changed, and we've added that note at the bottom of every card, but document uploaded, date entered by the reviewer, and then date confirmed by the regional director designee. So that process is still in place. But we think this is going to be a lot easier for you all to follow and be able to see where things are and when a submission's been rejected and it's been resubmitted, those sorts of things. So I know there's been some issues around that. So hopefully this will be clearer for you. So yeah, Linda was going over to the right. So all of the little green cards have a little caret in the right-hand column, and so when you click on that, that expands and contracts that. So we've finished up our site neighborhood standards section. So now we're going to go down and do the next one here, change in occupancy. You'll notice that just to the right of the words on the left on the card, there's an NA box. That is the NA box that you all are familiar with that used to be kind of down the second column of your old grid. We've put that up top now so that you can actually close all of these various green cards. So Linda, go ahead and close all the green cards. So if all of the green cards were closed and all the checkboxes had been done properly, you would only have to go to the ones that didn't have the NA checked. Okay? So we do recognize that in the migration, some of the NA boxes have become unchecked or checked incorrectly. Transaction managers are going back through and making sure that for all the active transactions, those are getting cleaned up, and we're making sure that for all the closed transactions, that's been cleaned up. So that will all be taken care of, hopefully, in the next couple of days. But this should be an easy way for you to quickly see, I don't need to do anything because the NA box is checked. I'm just going to go to the transaction that I need to review. Okay. Also notice that we have added a card. So the transfer of assistance card didn't exist in your old grid and is a new addition that is not necessarily linked into all of the overall approvals and everything else that's going on. So I know that your all's management team and the recap management team have been talking back and forth about how best to implement this piece. And so we built this card out so that hopefully in the next week or so, and may take a little bit longer, but soon we'll be able to have a protocol here, because right now this is a two-step review where the recap office is doing one part of the review and you all potentially are doing another part of the review. So right now, the documents that you're seeing submitted were actually submitted to allow the recap office to do their analysis of the transfer of assistance and their approval. And those are not particularly helpful to you because you're reviewing a different piece. So in the coming weeks, we'll have additional guidance on this, but just know that this card now exists and the functionality will be added to the overall use of the resource desk. The other piece, kind of preview of coming attractions, is there is going to be a new general checklist for all FHEO checklists, and these cards will allow that to be integrated into the resource desk much more seamlessly. That's why we moved away from the grid. So each card will open and close based on a series of questions that the PHA will ask, and you'll be pointed directly to the checklist that need to be reviewed, and all of that sort of stuff is going to be happening. So there's a lot of automation that's coming in the next few months for you guys that I think you'll be very excited about. But as you get used to using the new resource desk, the whole card structure, that will all be the same. So you're only going to have to kind of learn this that one time. Okay. So Linda, let's see the other. Oh, so the other thing I wanted to point out in the upper right-hand corner, that there's a kind of middle bar here, this white bar at the resource desk. We've got these kind of three new categories of kind of sub-menus. The far right was something that a lot of users asked for, and it's a contact list. So when you click on this button, you get a list, a two-page list, that on the first page you'll see all of the PHA users on the resource desk. So these are all of the people that are assigned to this transaction from the PHA front. So it may be PHA staff, it may be consultants that are working with them, but all of these folks on the first page are kind of PHA-specific users. Then on the second page, you're going to see all of the HUD users. So the RAD staff will be all of your transaction managers and closing coordinators and those sorts of things. And then kind of the other HUD staff will be all of the various other players, yourselves included. So the FHEO folks, the asset management folks, you'll have OGC counsel for a closed transaction. So all of those sorts of things will show up here. So it'll be an easy way for everybody to get to the users that they need to get in contact with. So we think this is going to be helpful. You can, have it sitting there while you're working on. You pull it as a separate web page, so you're all able to see that without having to flip back and forth and find people's names and contact information someplace else. Okay. So then if you go back to the other page, so then I touched on kind of navigation. So when Linda opened and closed all of the various cards for you, when you open this up and you have all the cards open and you're scrolling down all the time, it can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. You're like, you know what, I really just want to get back to the top and see what's going on with the main property page. So if you're deep in the process, then you can simply go up to the Go-To button and select the top card, and it takes you right back to the very first card that you were looking at. Okay? So that's something that we think is going to be very useful. You might come in and know that you want to look at the FHEO Accessibility and Relocation Checklist, and so you just simply hit the Go-To button and go there directly. So you don't have to scroll around at all. You just go straight down and look at that. Okay? All right, Lynn, let's log out as just the general FHEO user, and let's log logged in as a supervisor. So as we're talking, those of you who've used GoToMeeting with us before, there are a couple of different ways you can ask questions. You can raise your hand. You can type in a question. We obviously prefer for you to raise your hand, and then we can hopefully unmute your phone if you called in and used the audio code. But we're happy to field questions as we're going through this, so don't be shy. So we've now logged in in a supervisory account, and you'll notice, as I mentioned the first time, this search card stays the same from everybody else, and we're going to take a look at that in a minute. I'm going to show you kind of the power of the search card for everybody. But then below that, you'll see that the supervisor can then see all of the various different subcategories. So the first box that's open are all the reviews that are completed, but the transaction's not closed. So then if you close that little green bar, there we go. So then the next one that comes up will be all of the ones that have a pending accessibility and relocation checklist. So these are ones that are either going to submit something or have submitted something or under review. So as I'm looking at this list, I see a couple where the any documents uploaded is no, so there's nothing for them to review yet, but Oak Hill Homes has got a document, so that's got some work being done on it. Then the next one under that would be additional FHE reviews. So the relocation accessibility and relocation checklist is universally used by every transaction. Other transactions have a couple of other things that have to be done, potentially site neighborhoods, unit configuration change, and those would show up in this category. And then the last one would be a list of all of the transactions that are under review, i.e. they have a document uploaded, but the review hasn't been complete yet. Okay? Click on that one. So that sets up that. And then since many supervisors also process transactions, you could also see a list of active transactions assigned to them, or you could also have the notifications since you last logged in. So that will be on here as well. Okay, so it's a way to kind of navigate through all of these things. Looks like we might have a question, Linda, so let's go over there first, and we'll see what's going on. Yeah, Jordan's asking for a participant list, and yes, we can definitely get you a participant list, so that's not a problem. A hand raise. I love a hand raise. Hold on, let's see who's got their hand raised.
Just fine.
All right, so Gloria, let's see if we can unmute you. That's the wrong one. Get her back. So scroll down to Gloria. Hold on just a second, Gloria. We've got to find you again. There we go. Gloria?
Hi.
Hey.
I just wondered, what does it mean when it's saying all reviews complete, not closed?
So that means that the transaction hasn't been converted yet, but all of the reviews that need to be done, all the FHE reviews have been completed. So that means the FHE accessibility and relocation checklist has been reviewed and approved, and the site neighborhoods, if there was one, has been reviewed and approved. So basically, it's ready for conversion, ready to close.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you for raising your hand. Awesome. Okay, so let's take a look. So that's kind of how that is all set up. We've also, there are a number of reports that you all have used throughout the last year or so, and so the new report feature, the way this is going to work is there are a couple of critical reports, the FHEO status report and the approvals report, that we kind of anchored to the top here that kind of are most frequently used sort of reports. All of the rest of the reports, so if you click on all reports, will actually take you to a page, a separate page with all the reports that are specific to FHEO. And so if you're familiar with using these reports, you should be able to get to everything that you need here, but we're hoping that the more active reports at the top will be the ones that you get to begin with. We know that the FHEO status report is actually pointing to the site neighborhoods report at the moment, but that's in our queue and hopefully will be updated tomorrow, so that will actually be pointing correctly. There are also a couple of changes that we're going to be making to these reports over the next couple of weeks, because I know there were some calculated fields and things that your management team wanted added, so those will be added as well. But that link will be fixed tomorrow. So Good, we have another hand raised. Excellent. Let's see who it is. Unmute him. So Jordan, you can't, unfortunately, since you didn't dial in with your PIN, we can't unmute you. But if you want to type your question in, or if you want to put in your audio PIN now, we resend it to you if you want to put that in. Okay, it looks like you just typed the question in. So let's go. Click on the question mark. Oh, we got that already. Okay. All right, Jordan, if you've got something else, we've got your participant list. We'll definitely get that. But if you have something else, let us know. Okay? All right, hold on. Sylvia, we'll unmute you. All right, Sylvia, what do you got for us?
Hi, Robert. How's it going?
Great.
This is a really quick question. The transfer of assistance field on the dashboard when you're on an individual property, should they, if there's a review that involves the transfer of assistance, should they provide a letter under that category or under like the accessibility and relocation where it was previously?
I think that's up to you all. I mean, I think that
Okay.
we need, we've gone back and forth. I've gone back and forth with Will,
Right.
and I'm happy to do whatever you all want to do.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we wanted to make sure that the card and the ability for you all to do that was there. But then whatever protocols or procedures you all want to come up with, we're happy to implement that moving forward.
Okay. Okay, that works. Thank you.
So just let us know, and we'll make that change.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Jordan's still not able to try that again. Looks like we might be able to get there. All right, Jordan, what do you got for us?
There are two quick questions.
Sure.
We're just reviewing the types of properties that fall into different categories. Is it at all possible to put like one of those little, I guess, clickable buttons that, like, if you click on it, it'll maybe expand and tell you exactly what's in, the tab that says all reviews completed, not closed, all properties pending, and relocation review, that kind of thing?
Let's go back and see. I'm not quite sure that I understand what you're asking. So let's go to that. Go back to your page here. We're going back to your home page. All right. Which one? What card do you want us to expand?
Yeah, well, you don't have to expand them. I mean, they're kind of self-explanatory, but I think it would be useful to have next to them somehow exactly what parameters that a property would fall into them. Like, for example, properties under review. Does that include, say, properties that might have a review in the future, or is it only strictly properties under review? Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Let's see what we can do. Like a little bit more clarification. Okay. Sure.
And the second question I had is if you click on one of the properties.
Sure. Which, do you have one in particular, or just any of them?
Just any one. I don't know. You may be getting this later, maybe jumping the gun.
Okay.
But there's now a checkbox there that we can say reviews complete or not complete. So I guess if you're
That's for you. Yeah. So that was when I was doing the earlier part. So since you're a supervisor, you have the ability to make that checkbox. The first person we logged in was simply a reviewer. They can't check that box.
What does this do?
So that tells the recap staff and the closing coordinators and everyone down the stream here that FHEO has done all of their reviews and that you're finished with this transaction. It's all done.
So are you now saying that this is a requirement after
Yes.
they complete the reviews? They have to check that
Yes,
box.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. Thanks for raising your hand. Let's unraise his hand or mute him. I know. All right, good. All right, up to the top, we've got Gloria, I think, had another. Gloria.
Hi, thanks. I had a question on the reports, please, if you don't mind going back to that.
Sure. All right.
Okay, so I'm not one of the RAD reviewers. I'm the program analyst for Region 4. And I was trying to put together some information that our regional director wanted. He was asking me to, put together a list by region of all the RAD reviews that had been done by each region in FY17. So what I had gone to was the FHEO approvals report and the rejections report, and just did a sort by date on that. And when I was in those two reports, I had noticed that there was, there were different tabs depending on the type of RAD review it was, like occupancy or accessibility. And one of them was the SNS reviews. So I'm wondering how that was different from the SNS status report.
Not. The SNS status report shows you all of the SNS, so both approvals, rejections, and active reviews.
Okay. But the approvals and rejections, those would be completed reviews, though.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's
okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other place in terms of reporting that would be handy to look at for data requests like that I might
let's park that just for a second, because I'm going to show you how to use the search function for some kind of fly on the fly reporting in just a minute. So we'll get to that in just a second.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Sylvia, you've got another question. Hold on, we're going to unmute you. Hold on. All right, Sylvia.
Hi, Robert. Sorry, one follow-up to Jordan's second question, actually, on that checkbox for the reviews complete, not complete, that the supervisory users can access. How should our users, or when should our users select that would be my question, just because typically we've relied a lot on the transaction managers to know which type of review each RAD transaction will need, and we might not know the full picture, if they need a site neighborhood versus unit reduction or something along that line.
Right. So we're going to go to that page. We're going to pull a property up right now, and I'll show you.
Perfect.
So, if you pull up a transaction, just click on it. So, what Recap would like you to do is every one of these boxes that's not NA. So Linda starts scrolling through here. Hold on, we got to minimize so you can see this. Okay. So that one's NA. The next one's NA. That next one's not NA. Keep going. And that's okay. So in this particular case, Sylvia, so this one's got the relocation checklist has to be done for all of them. Scroll up just a hair, Linda. And then this one has the unit configuration change. So once these two are approved, and there's no NA box, this would be done. So we would hope that whoever's the last one to approve, whatever regional director designee who's doing these, we would hope that whoever saw the last one that needed to be done, that's been completed, then they would go in and check the box.
Okay.
The TMs and the closing coordinators are going to start reaching out to the FHEO regional designee assigned if they haven't done it by the time it comes through and the RCC is issued.
Okay.
Because that's where it's going to start showing in their system. Because that's where it starts have to be done.
The transaction manager is still going to do the initial selections for the NA,
correct?
Correct?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so mute her. Sorry, you got to mute her. All right, then we had a couple of questions, written questions. All right. If we are a director's designee and have all the categories shown on the supervisor's page, so yeah, so there's a question about if you're a director designee and you don't have all the categories, i.e., you can't check the all reviews complete, not closed. You just would need to let us know that you have the ability to do that. So I think you probably should coordinate that through, Sylvia or Danielle or those folks, and we'll make that update. So Danielle's question: how does our resource desk know? Hold on. When a front-end review is the last review of a transaction? Yeah, so that would be, yeah, so the only way to know it's the last review is as long as if the NA boxes aren't checked and the approvals haven't been done. So that's the best way to know that. Well, we're thinking about different ways that we might be able to make that easier, but I think that right now that's the cleanest way to do it. All right. No more. All right, so let's go take a look at the search engine. So let's go to Jordan's homepage. All right, so now we're on everyone's homepage is going to have this search engine at the top. So everyone can do this. And so say, for example, I am looking for all the transactions in Texas. So I'm going to go to the state drop-down box. And I'm going to scroll down to Texas, and I'm simply going to do a search on all of the Texas transactions. So here I'm going to get a list of all of the transactions in Texas, and you'll notice on the far right-hand side, we've added a new category for the RAD status. So we have the financing plan not submitted, financing plan submitted, RCC issued and closed, and you all can also actually see withdrawn transactions. Most folks cannot see withdrawn transactions, but you all can because we recognize the fact that you all have done some reviews on a withdrawn transaction. You want to make sure you can at least take a look at those. You can't do anything on a withdrawn transaction, but you can see it. So we think that this color coding and status will allow people to really understand where things are in the process and what's going on. So let's say we've got a list of Texas transactions, and that's all we care about. So go back up to the top, Linda. So at the top, you can see that all I care about is Texas, and I want to send this report to somebody. I can quickly create a PDF by clicking on this. I can create a PDF, send it to my regional director, whoever, and the list is done. But let's say I want to do some slicing and dicing of this, and I want to look more specifically at the number of units in the transaction and whether it's tax credits, that sort of thing. I can create an Excel spreadsheet of this report and then manipulate it offline as much as I want. Inside the resource desk and on the web, you have the ability to sort by all of the various categories. So if I did want the Texas list, but in fact I wanted to see it by PHA, I just clicked on the little PHA thing, there we go. So now we've got listed alphabetically by PHA. So now I can easily see that Brownsville, Texas, for example, has withdrawn 2. They've got 1 financing plan not submitted. They've closed 1, closed 2. So I can easily see kind of what their portfolio looks like here. So we're hopeful that folks can easily find things. The other thing that I love about this is if you go back up to the top and you clear the search filters, one of the things that we always are having a problem with is someone will send us a request and just give us the name of the transaction. It's not working. Okay. It's just really slow. Sorry. Okay. So somebody says, you know what? I've got a transaction. The name is something Park something. So we simply put in the name of the property and hit the search button. And we're going to hope that it searches. It's funny because as we've been doing these trainings, sometimes the resource desk is super fast and sometimes it's super slow. So I don't know what it is, but generally we're hoping that it won't be so sporadic. But here now I have a list of all the Park transactions, and I see that in fact, you know, I was looking for Shore Park, and there it is, and I can pull that transaction up there. So it's a nice way to kind of get to stuff that you need much more quickly, we hope. What else did we have, Linda? There's a question that just came in, so we'll take a look at that. So written instructions. So this webinar will be posted for people to watch and view, and we are working on a general resource desk guide, but I don't know when that will be coming out. So I would say hopefully you reference this to begin with, and then we may put some cheat sheets together or maybe some checklists and some quick screenshots, but we are working on a kind of a comprehensive user's guide over the next few months. That's a great question, though. Just so, as a reminder to everybody, Resource Desk is live. We know that there are going to be some issues, one of which is those of you using Internet Explorer. So this is a weird one because This issue only seems to come up when you're working on Internet Explorer on a HUD computer. We were using Chrome in the demo. I typically use Mozilla on my laptop, but you'll notice as soon as we log on here, there's the little arrow doesn't show up on the screen for some reason. When I run Internet Explorer at home, it shows up just fine. HUD is the only place that I've had this problem. But if you see how Linda's got her mouse over it, you still can click on it. So if she clicks on it, it still expands. So the functionality is still there. You just don't happen to see it. We've got that in the queue to see if we can figure something out. But for right now, just know that in the far right-hand corner of every card, if you click there, it expands and contracts the green card. And if you're having problems, please reach out to us and let us know, because we want, obviously want the functionality, want people to be able to do their jobs. If you're not seeing a transaction that you think you need to see, a document that you thought was there isn't there, you're working with the PHA and they say they did something and you're not seeing it, reach out to us and we'll track it down. Generally for the FHEO stuff, knock on wood, we've had most of the migration has worked just fine. Most of the documents have come across, all of the dates have come across. The TOA piece, since that's new, that's a little bit confusing, but I think in the coming weeks that will be clearer and we'll get some guidance out to folks on how to do that. Resource desk, contact RAD is probably the best way to do things. So you're working in the resource desk and something comes up, you can quickly go in the upper right-hand corner, click on that, send us an email. You can obviously reach out to your management group and they know how to get in touch with us. But please, don't bang your head against the wall. If something's not working for you, let us know. We'll get in touch with you quickly and get you back up and running. So, are there any other questions or things that we can deal with? I'm looking at our little screen to see if any hands go up or anything. Doesn't look like it, which is great. But know that we're doing a lot of trainings. All this week we're training, doing these webinars. This webinar we posted to the resource desk for FHEO users, so you'll be able to watch it again if you want to. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We got a question? Can the reviews complete be automated? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Danielle. So at the moment, I think we have to have it manually, but we're happy to work with you all to see what changes we might need to do to automate that a little more. Can you show us again where the fair housing resources? Yeah, okay, so yes, perfect. We'll do that right now. So if you go over to your RAD, you click on the RAD home, the spokes come up, and you click on the document library. So the document library now has all of the things that are specific to an FHEO user. So there's some additional guidance pieces in here. If you go to RAD Home again, any webinars that are specific to you all would be under training. So once this webinar is posted, it will show up in the training section. And then the notices, but I think the notices are universal for everybody, right? Yep. Okay. So Kate, hopefully we got you the but where piece on it, but I'll go back again. So document library, depending on what you're looking for, if there's anything specific to FHEO, for example, in submitting the financing plan, if there's anything specific to FHEO, it would show up here. Okay. All right, go back to our questions. No, there's not a fair housing category. No, fair housing is integrated with everything else. All right, we've got a hand raised. Let's be at the top. Sylvia.
Hi, Robert. Sorry, lots of questions, but hopefully helpful.
Okay, good.
So under the search for my transactions, if I wanted to search, for instance, for individual regions, all like they're currently open reviews, how would I do that? Because I know it'll come up and it'll filter by like financing plan not submitted, or it is submitted, or it's complete. Is there a way to filter so that we can see only the open reviews, like ones that have current applications where there's no FHEO response quite yet?
Yeah, we could add that filter, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Let's take that. We'll take that and revise it. That does make sense. So, in addition to the RAD status on the right, you'd like to see. Let's just do one real quick while we're sitting here. Let's do a HUD region. Let's just pull up one. Region 1. And so what you're saying is, in addition to the RAD status where the financing plan is not submitted, you'd like to be able to find ones like whether Valley Townhouses has uploaded their FHEO accessibility and relocation checklist for review, kind of thing.
Right, or even just within those tabs, you know, like how they had it before slightly, where it was like all open reviews, you know, all, you know, accessibility remaining, you know, something like that. I don't know, it's just a thought.
So hold on, let's see. I want to walk through it with you, so I want to make sure let's log
looking at the same thing.
Let's log in as a supervisor here. Hold on, bear with us. So we're looking at all properties
under review are probably the primary ones.
Okay, so good look for, right? Oh, and so you want to add so we could sort that?
Right. Yeah, or at least be able to filter. So if I was in region 1, I could only look at I could filter, so I'm only looking at region 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So if we added a sort feature at the end there, that might be helpful.
A sort, I mean, I know that there's a index, so you can do it like by name, but
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see what we can do on that front.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Let's close her. All right. Sherry. Sherry, what do you got for us? Sherry, hello. Sherry Adams.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Perfect. I was on speaker.
That's all right.
So earlier, someone asked if the system could be automated, and I wanted to piggyback off of that. And I believe that in terms of automation is where it's similar to a macro, where the system will just prompt you to each question in a review and give you options to choose to make the correct selection. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
I hear what you're saying. But
automation.
I feel like what Danielle was actually asking was if we could make the system know that the last review had been completed and that the review complete checkbox would be done automatically. I think that's what she was referring to, automating that function.
I
think what you're talking about is more of where we're headed, which is we're going to be developing where the PHA is going to come in and complete a questionnaire that's then going to drive what checklist they have to submit, and your review will then be driven off of that. And, that's where we're moving towards that for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yep. Jordan, we're going to unmute you now. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions about some of these drop-downs. One category, any docs uploaded, and so a lot of them say yes. But say, for example, we have a review that's either approved or disapproved, or maybe like one of the reviews is approved on this particular property because it sorts by property, not review type. Is there a way that someone looking at this would know, okay, well, documents were uploaded originally, but we've issued a disapproval, and now it's pending more documents uploading? Is there any way that this captures that?
Well, it wouldn't show up as all properties under review if a decision had been made. It would move to one of these other cards.
But if one had been disapproved and the other hadn't been acted on yet, it would show as under review.
It would still show under review.
Yeah. So if any review is active, it's going to show as under review.
Uh-huh.
But we don't, and so what you're saying is you'd like to be able to see what review is active?
That might be useful, but I was just wondering, like, is there a quick way to glance, like, okay, you know, we're waiting on the PHA to submit more documents. So, I mean, if they submitted them originally, we know that that's up there, but how do we know if we're waiting on them to submit more?
If you were waiting for them, it wouldn't be showing up as under review because there's no document upload. There's technically no document uploaded to review.
Wouldn't the rejections report would show you if documents have been re-uploaded?
That's true. Yeah, the rejections report, Jordan, would show you that too.
And the second question I had was, what about, it's not in this category, but in one of them it shows you like the funding type. Is there any opportunity to show mixed funding, or is this like a binary PBA, PBRV field?
So RAD transactions can't be jointly funded. They're either PBRA or they're PBV. There's no mix for RAD transactions. They can mix it at the property, but they can't for a RAD conversion.
Okay, I gotcha. That might have been.
Yeah, so if I'm coming through RAD, I can't say I'm going to do half of my units PBRA and half of my units PBV on a single property. They have to all be one or the other.
And that holds true for scattered sites and multi-phases?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Right. See if any other questions. You can unraise the hand. See if there's one. All right. It looks like we got all the hand raises and all the questions. So, again, I want to thank you all for participating, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all. You are a power user group. I'll tell you, you guys use the resource desk a lot, and we appreciate the comments and the feedback, and we'll keep working through this stuff, and hopefully, we're really hopeful that this is going to be an improvement for you all, and I know that as we move through the fall and into the winter, when we start hopefully automating some more of this stuff, it'll be even better. So thanks, everybody, for calling in. And again, if you have any problems, shoot us a note, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks an awful lot.